LJN Fight Night Podcast. Hosted by The Plan, Zash Man. The Victorian, Brother Brutus Valentine. And everyone's favorite man, all up in smoke, Duarte the Punch. Ladies and gentlemen, they're ready to rumble, so let's go to the studio. Take it away, Zash Man.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to LJN Fight Night Podcast. Duarte, Brutus, and we've got the Texas Rattlesnake, Kevin Swales, joining us today. How are you, boys?
Good, thank you. I like your shirt, Kevin.
Yeah, I was about to say, who else is in this? Macho, Ultimate, Brett, and Taker, and Bulldog. Oh, SummerSlam.
Oh, damn.
Two.
Is that an original?
UK SummerSlam, yeah.
Wow.
Reproduction.
Still
Yeah,
very
that was a good SummerSlam.
WrestleMania shirt from when they toured here in 1985. They sold WrestleMania shirts. It still fits over my head.
The weight part.
I'll dig it out for the next show because I'm not sure where it is. My wife tried to throw it out once. It smells, but it's the WrestleMania. It's the same shirt they sold at WrestleMania. So yeah.
Oh, nice.
Wow, that's awesome.
And it's probably impossible to get any of that stuff, that merch. Like there's original like that. That's not a reproduction.
Yeah, there's some. You see some original shirts pop up of those T-shirts.
Yeah.
But they go for big dollars, and then there's the reproductions, of course.
Yeah.
They're good.
Yeah. Nice.
All right. Thanks to Kevin Swales, the Texas Rattlesnake. We've got a big name coming on the show today. We've advertised it so people know. So we should get plenty of watchers. We've got the great man, Duke the Dumpster Droese, coming on. So we're not going to keep everyone waiting any longer. Let's bring the great man on. At LJN Fight Night Podcast, we welcome WWF superstar Duke the Dumpster Droese.
Hey guys, let's go.
How's it going, Duke?
Nice intro. I appreciate that.
He does. Zash has a thing with intros. He just loves doing them. But usually,
well.
he always has a hidden picture in the end to embarrass you. But he didn't do it with you, so that's a good thing.
Well, that's a good thing. There's plenty of embarrassing pictures out there.
Probably lots of great stories for your time in the WWF.
Oh, yeah. Some great stories we can tell, some we cannot. But yes, there are lots of stories.
Of course, be on the road for that many days with all those guys.
Well, there's no need to censor anything.
Yes.
Duke, I'd like to get started by knowing what got you started in the wrestling business.
I was a fan. I grew up in Miami, Florida, and I watched championship wrestling from Florida with Gordon Soley. And, the guys like Dusty Rhodes, Ric Flair, the Wyndhams, Blackjack Mulligan, Kevin Sullivan. I was talking earlier about the Missing Link and people like that would come through Florida. And I was really mesmerized, by the wrestling business and the show that they would put on. I went every week to the live show they did in Miami Beach. They would come every week. They had a loop they did in Florida every single week. And,
same location?
Yeah, Miami Beach Convention Center every single week. And I would go religiously. But the thing that ultimately made me really decide that wrestling was what I wanted to do was WrestleMania 1. I went and watched it with my dad, actually in the Miami Beach Convention Center on a closed circuit television, because this was before pay-per-view, of course. And I remember the whole Mr. T match and the way they built up to that and the way that match went down and the excitement behind it. And it was just something that was so different and crazy that, I was an amateur wrestler in high school at the time. And, I was trying to figure out what I was going to do with it. And, I never thought, I knew the difference between pro wrestling and amateur, but That WrestleMania 1, man, that was the moment. I actually said it out loud. I turned and looked at my dad and I said, "That's what I want to be. I want to be a professional wrestler." And I literally started learning like a month later. I was still in high school, a senior in high school, and I started learning pro wrestling.
Yeah, because you weren't a kid then, were you, Duke? You were about 16 at the time.
Yeah, when I first started getting into the ring, I was probably 17. But yeah, I was that's when I was definitely watching it. And I mean, I watched championship wrestling from Florida as even younger, as a younger kid. Hell, I may have even still believed it back in those days. But
Yeah.
I figure, you figure out pretty well. You get about high school age, you start to figure out that wrestling's a work. But
Yeah, quite a while for me. Yeah,
yeah, it's still real to me. Damn it!
it still was.
Yeah.
But it was just so exciting, and I got in the ring, and man, I fell in love with it, and it came natural, and it was easy for me because, like I said, I was already an amateur wrestler, and I was already in shape, so I would learn things really fast, and it only took me about 6 months before I had my first match. But yeah, I was still in high school, so.
Did you ever see David Von Erich when he went to Florida?
David Von Erich, no, I never. David Von Erich. The interesting thing, I started watching. They would also pipe in some of that Texas TV to us in Florida, but we were kind of limited on what we got otherwise. Like Vince really didn't start putting TV on until he started the big takeover, which was after WrestleMania 1. If you really think about it, he really started pushing WrestleMania 1 and after. But before that, it was either championship wrestling for Florida, or sometimes we would see the world-class championship wrestling in Texas. And I would watch the Von Erichs, but I had never seen David Von Erich because I think by the time I started watching that stuff, he had already passed away.
He was a heel in Florida.
Yeah, I don't remember seeing him.
They hated his guts.
Yeah, I remember seeing guys come in like Morocco and people like that. I remember like Barry Windham when he was really young. I remember Kendall Windham and Blackjack Mulligan, and I remember Kevin Sullivan and that whole devil worshiping gimmick, man. They had me sold on that deal too. It was so intense. And but yeah, it was interesting to see some of the wrestlers that would come through Florida from time to time.
Your first match, by the way, did you win or lose?
I won.
That's a good start.
Yeah, I actually the guy that trained me was like a tag team partner. The guy that trained me, his name was Bobby Wales. He wrestled as the Jamaican Jammer, Bobby Wales, and he wrestled in a tag team in Florida sometimes with the Haitian sensation Tyree Pride. And
Haitian sensation, that's good.
And so Tyree got me booked. And again, I was like still like whatever, 17, I guess, at the time. And he got me booked with the AWA. They came through Florida at one point.
Wow.
But it was the ICW AWA when the Savoldis took it over. I guess they bought it from Vern or something. I don't remember what the story was. But they still had a lot of those same guys. They had Bockwinkel. They had Zabisco. They had Colonel De Beers. And a lot of those guys, Boris Zukov. And here I am, this skinny little high school kid working on these shows. And I was completely clueless, obviously. Like it was literally my first match. But it was exciting because Tyree got me booked and I got to win. So that was pretty cool.
Brutus,
I asked before, but Kevin had a better question. Had you grown to your full height by that stage?
To my full height. Almost, probably. I started growing in 8th grade. And I just remember my history teacher would take me next door to the health class and weigh me on their scale like every week because I started growing so fast.
Fuck.
So yeah, in high school I was pretty big. I played a little bit of football and I was the heavyweight wrestler on the high school wrestling team. So yeah, I was probably about 6'5", 6'6", and I was probably like 275 in high school.
Oh, in high school, yeah. Well, in Australia, I think we'd call you a big unit. Wouldn't that be right, Zach?
Big unit.
Yeah,
That's the Aussie slang for it. Yeah.
It's a sign of it's actually a compliment when someone says, "Oh, he's a big unit," or "She's a big unit." Yeah.
Oh, okay. Because sometimes here in America, if they call you a unit, they mean they're calling you a penis.
Yeah.
Oh,
Really?
That big unit, I think it was the drummer from Motley Crue.
You're a big unit.
Well, it's a double compliment then.
I remember the big unit was Randy. Who's that pitcher from the pitcher in the Major League Baseball? A
Randy
big,
Johnson.
tall guy. Anyway, they called him the big unit too.
Yeah. That was that base. The pitcher, Randy Johnson. Yeah,
He
Randy
hit that
Johnson.
seagull with that pitch.
yeah. He used to like do a wind-up throw.
Yeah. Gigantic.
So, Duke, you're in the WWF between 94 and 95 under the ring name Duke the Dumpster Droese. How did that gimmick name come about?
Yeah.
And was it your idea, their idea, or how did it come about?
Or did you have like choices? How does it go?
Well, I was wrestling down in Florida before all that, and I came up with the gimmick, the Garbage Man Rocco Gibraltar, and that's what I was wrestling as in Florida, and that's how I pitched the gimmick to Vince. And when they brought me in, Shane McMahon produced my vignettes. I drove around Stamford, Connecticut, taping all that stuff at the dump and stuff with Shane. And Shane was the one that told me they were going to change my name to Duke the Dumpster Droese.
That's pretty
So
cool.
they could own the licensing rights to it while I was working for them. But the gimmick itself, I was doing the same exact gimmick, just a different name down in Florida.
That's cool that Shane went with you to film your things.
Yeah, except
The boss's son is filming your thing. That's great.
Yeah, because Shane, I think it's at that time, Shane was kind of working his way through the entire company, working in each section for a little while because he was like learning it because maybe someday he would take over back in those days. That was the thinking. So at that point, he was working in the studio. So it was just my luck. I got to work with the boss's son. The funny thing is, I didn't realize he was the boss's son when I was there for my tryout at first. But then by the time I went back for my vignettes, I knew who he was.
Yeah.
And for those who don't know, what was your build hometown?
Mount Trashmore, Florida, which is there's a lot of Mount Trashmores in the United States. Any gigantic mountain of a landfill of garbage is called Mount Trashmore. And they have one down in South Florida in an area called Homestead, Florida, which was actually where in 1992 Hurricane Andrew came on shore and destroyed so much down there in Homestead in Naranja Lakes, Florida. But there is a big landfill right in the middle of that area. And if you drove by the expressway at the wrong time of day or the right time of day, you would smell it. It stunk to high heavens. But that was where I came up with the idea that everybody called it Mount Trashmore. Mm-hmm. So that's where I decided the name of the town would be Mount Trashmore, Florida.
Yeah. I mean, in an era of crazy gimmicks.
Yeah, there was a lot of gimmicks that time.
I quite like your gimmick as the dumpster. There's some people that didn't like it so much. What was your thoughts of it?
Well, I mean, I think the people that didn't like it are looking back in hindsight and saying they didn't like it. I knew exactly. I wasn't stupid. I knew exactly what I was walking into, and I knew that at that particular moment in time, Vince McMahon liked to hire these types of gimmicks, and mine hit on many levels. It was like the occupation job kind of guy, but it was a blue collar worker in America, and all of those things. I always said it was a cross between Hacksaw Jim Duggan and Hillbilly Jim.
Yeah,
and Vince loved it, and I knew he was going to like it. Because before that I had the name Rocco Gibraltar, but I had to think, and I had to come up with a gimmick for it, and a gimmick that kind of made sense and sounded good. So the Garbage Man Rocco Gibraltar is what I had come up with, because I was thinking in terms of Vince McMahon, what Vince McMahon would buy, what he would bring in for the style that he was using at the time and the types of gimmicks. And it got me in there when I didn't have any connections in the company. I didn't know anybody. I walked right up to Vince McMahon himself, actually, at a convention, and handed him a promotional pack. And
Nice.
shook his hand and talked to him for a few minutes, and then got the hell out of there. And that's how I got hired.
Sweet.
Did he ever pair you up with Tony Anthony?
No. After I wrestled Tony Anthony when he came in with the plumber gimmick.
Okay, I was gonna say, who's Tony Anthony? I'm like,
Tony Anthony was a very well-known wrestler down in the southern United States. He wrestled in Memphis a lot, and they brought him in like '96 when they brought in that last run of crazy weird gimmicks. They brought in the Goon. They had Salvatore Sincere.
yeah.
They had what did they called him? TL Hopper. He was like a plumber. But no, by that time I was kind of on my way out already.
Okay.
So they never paired me. I wanted to be paired. Yeah, that's him.
That's a Zash clone.
That's a good looking. Yeah, that's good. That's real good.
I can't
But
fucking.
yeah, I wanted to be paired with Henry Godwin, the hog farmer, or I wanted to work an angle against him first, and then I
Speaking
wanted to
about
work
that,
with him. Huh?
you didn't get a title, but you did win something in the WWF.
The first guy to beat Triple H.
No. You won the Slammy.
Yeah.
Oh, that's actually a myth.
You won the Slammy with the Godwin. You guys were actually tied for it that year.
See, I wasn't even there then. I guess I don't know what happened. I don't remember that. Yeah, people tell me I won a Slammy, but I never went up on stage and got a Slammy. So, yeah, I think that's kind of a myth. I don't know if that was true or not. I don't remember it. Of course, I don't remember a lot of things. But
Hey,
yeah,
if you don't
we
remember
had
that,
a lot
you
of
had a
fun
good
in those
time.
days.
Exactly.
So who else we had? We had what? Isaac Yankem, didn't we? And Sparky Plug and
Yeah, but Isaac Yankem, he
the
was Kane.
Portuguese Man of War, and
Aldo
before
Montoya.
that we had Repo
Oh
Man,
God,
which was
poor
actually
PJ. Yeah, the Portuguese man of war with the yellow jockstrap
mm,
on his face.
Aldo Montoya.
I felt, I felt bad for him with that gimmick. The way we used to
I
all call
loved
it
it. I loved
the
it.
Tweety Bird gimmick. We called it because he looked like Tweety Bird.
I loved it.
Yeah.
I'm
And
Portuguese,
I'll tell you
I loved
something else. Bob Holly hated Thurman Sparky Plug. I
Really?
mean, he used to seethe with anger. He hated it. He hated it so much.
Why?
Because he couldn't stand it. He thought it was the dumbest. When I first got there, I rode with him and Adam Baum, and I just remember we're all sitting there, and some fan comes up in a restaurant and says, "Hey, you guys are wrestlers." Yeah, da-da-da-da. And they look at him, and they said, "Well, what's your name?" And he goes, "Sparky Plug." And the fans started laughing. And he was just, this vein started coming up his neck and his forehead.
probably not the best
Started
guy to laugh
shaking.
at either.
He hated it so much. When they finally changed his name just to Bob Holly for a while, he was still a race car driver, but they started calling him Bob Holly. He was much happier about it. And then, of course, eventually he made some good money and did well there as Hardcore Holly.
Yeah.
But when he was third on Sparky Plug, he despised it.
I suppose it all comes back to Brutus the Barber. That's who we can probably blame for this.
That's who Brutus did what?
He's
We can
trying to
blame
say
Brutus the Barber for all of these occupations, but
occupational
I don't know.
gimmicks.
I don't know. It's hard to say, but there was definitely a lot of bad.
Yeah, if you think about it, there was a dentist, a plumber, a barber.
Oh yeah, yeah. They were just like it seemed like they would bring in some occupation. We called them occupational gimmicks.
I can't
Like
believe what happened to Matt Bourne.
everything Vince McMahon was afraid of.
Yeah, and I remember it was like we would be sitting in the locker room like joking around. What are they going to bring in next? A teacher? And then they bring in Shane Douglas as Dean Douglas.
Dean
It's like every
Douglas,
week.
Yeah.
Every week or every month they would come up with another ridiculous. Bringing in Wild Bill Irwin as a hockey player was probably one of the most ridiculous things.
Good.
Yeah, it was just so ridiculous because Wild Bill had such a reputation in the business already. Such a great wrestler and such legendary matches with his brother, like against the Road Warriors in the AWA and all this great history, and they bring him in and they make him the Goon.
Walking around on those skates too. So
Yeah, that was the worst. The worst boots in the history of the business for twisting your ankles. He's walking around on those trying to work and wrestle a match.
Did you shape up against him at the gimmick battle royal or?
Yeah, he was there. I don't think I really did anything against him. I was kind of stuck over, and I remember being near Nikolai Volkov in the Iron Sheik because Nikolai Volkov snuck up behind me and grabbed me, and every time he hit me, Nikolai Volkov would let out this high-pitched scream. He would go, ah! Ah! And he would throw these chops, and everybody around was laughing. And then the Iron Sheik was like directly in front of me at one point, and he's going, Nikolai, you motherfucker. Shut up, Nikolai. But yeah, it was crazy. We had a good time. And that gimmick battle royal, everybody was goofing off and just punching and kicking and walking around and looking. And I remember I was over near Brother Love and Jim Cornette for a while. They stayed married to each other in the corner there. They didn't come out and do much. It was just a payday for a lot of guys, but it was. I got to be in a WrestleMania in front of 65,000 people. So.
Yeah, I had my money on the gobbledygooker, but he didn't come through for me.
He was in there, and it was really Chavo Guerrero. Who was it?
Hector.
One of the Guerreros.
Yeah.
It was the original. Yeah, it was the same guy that was the original gobbledygooker. There's another interesting gimmick. But yeah, there was a lot of interesting gimmicks. Mantar, there was another one. I love Mike Halleck, man. I worked with him a lot, and he's just a big old strong boy from Nebraska. And they killed him before he even got started. When they first made him come out with that big bison head on, and he couldn't even get in the ring, and it was just unbelievable. But as a wrestler, he was great, man. He was a big, strong guy, but a lot of guys kind of tippy-toed around in those days, walking on eggshells around guys in the clique. And I remember Razor Scott Hall wrestled a match with Mantar and just completely took advantage of him. Just slapped him around and beat him up on TV on Raw, I believe it was, and made him look like complete crap. So, Mike was kind of timid. Guys were kind of timid to stand up for themselves with clique members and stuff like that. So that happened. But yeah, the gimmick days, it was interesting. I'm still waiting for them. I'm holding my breath, waiting for them to open a gimmick wing in the Hall of Fame so I can walk across that stage one day.
Speaking of the clique, I understand you had some frustrations with the clique, personal frustrations. Can you talk us through any of that?
Well, I think a lot of people there at that time were frustrated with the clique because they had so much power as a group. They stuck together. They helped each other get a lot of the top main event, semi-main event spots. They discussed how much they got paid with each other. So as a unit, that made them stronger because they could go to Vince and go, wait a minute, you paid him this and paid him that. So they got each other paid and taken care of while the rest of the guys in the company were just kind of still getting crapped on. But and I've said this in other interviews, individually, those guys were pretty cool, man, to hang with. I hung out with a lot of those guys individually or in twos or threes of them, and they were always pretty cool. But as a group, they were pretty damn arrogant, and they knew they had power. But I realized many years later, the frustration, being frustrated over that is stupid. If you know anything about the wrestling business, you got to understand at some point you're going to have to get yourself over. And I was just kind of clueless in those days, but I could have got myself over, and it wouldn't have mattered what the clique did. If Vince sees the crowd into you and you start making money, Vince is going to use you. It doesn't matter if he's got a clique or not. Take, for example, Rocky Maivia. When he started turning heel, and he started coming up and writing a lot of his own stuff as The Rock, and it took off like it did. That's a perfect example of somebody stepping out and getting over. And so, and he didn't get along with the Click guys or the DX guys for a long time. There used to be some pretty nasty arguments between him and Road Dogg and Billy Gunn early on, but The Rock made it work and became one of the most powerful stars in the business. So, you know, why get angry about a group like the Click? You just had to get yourself over. That's what people should have done. And there was other guys that did it that were outside of the Click. But I just didn't have that kind of an understanding of the business at the time. So I was kind of clueless.
Okay. And I'd like to shoot off a few names, and you can tell us your relationship or your thoughts about these guys. If that's all right.
Yeah, just throwing them.
I'd love to start with Doink, the clown.
I never met the original Doink, Matt Bourne, but the very first person, one of the very first people I rode with on the road in the WWF was Ray Apollo, Doink, and Dink, Tiger Jackson. And the fourth wheel in that rent-a-car was Luna Vachon. So it's me, Doink, Dink, and Luna.
What a drive.
Up in Canada, you know,
The original
like Halifax
oddities.
and stuff. And I was brand new. It was like one of my first tours on the road, and we were in some bed and breakfast staying the night in Halifax. Me and Luna shared a room because we were friends from Florida, and the Doink and Dink had a room of their own. And there were some college kids next door to our room. Some college kids were having a party, and Luna got pissed off. They were making noise, and Luna crawled outside the back. We were like on the second floor. She went out. She climbed out on the balcony, climbed across to their balcony, and went in their back sliding glass door and went in there and smashed a bottle over some college girl's head and told him to shut up. She's trying to sleep. And then she crawled back over and came back. And it was a big mess, man. But I ended up getting her out of being arrested. She didn't. They took us all down to this police station, and I got her off because, long story short, they had one of their college buddies showed up at the wrong door, and he was really drunk, and he was kind of goofing around like he was swinging to punch one of his friends, but it was me at the door, and I had a big bruise on my arm from working that day with Bastion Booger. We did some spot where I was bruised, and it looked perfectly like he had punched me. And I told the cops that he attacked me, and everybody got off and got sent home, and nobody got arrested. So it was a good night. Yeah. So I kept Luna from getting arrested that night. But that was my very first experience, and that's how I met Doink and Dink.
I just thinking,
What a drive, eh?
Oh,
Dink
God.
would have been good.
Huh?
Oh, sorry, Dink would have been good hiding in your trash can. That could have been a good part of a gimmick.
Yeah, they actually did that on Monday Night Raw with when I finally, we did that whole Monday Night Raw thing where Jerry the King Lawler jumped me and beat me over the head with the can. And then later on, we never got a pay-per-view out of it, but we ended up coming back and wrestling on Raw. And what they did is they had Dink the Clown in a garbage can at the ringside. And during the match, Jerry Lawler was going to get the garbage and bring it in and beat me up with it again. But Dink sprayed him in the face with seltzer water, a comedy spot. And it set up Doink and the three Dinks and Dink and Stink and Pink or whatever their names were. And Jerry the King Lawler and his three little midget kings for the Survivor Series, I guess it was, or whatever the next one was.
Were they cheesy, sneezy, and sleazy?
Cheesy, sneezy,
Yeah.
sleazy.
That's
Yeah.
what it was.
That's how they set that up. They transitioned out of mine and Jerry's thing on Monday Night Raw, and Dink was in fact in the garbage can.
I remember the Survivor Series. That was a good one.
Do you,
Other than
do you have a Mick Foley story?
1 second.
Mick Foley. Well, it's funny when Mick first came in, Cactus Jack first came in, he he was at the Jetport Holiday Inn in Newark, New Jersey, which was we flew into Newark, New Jersey a lot and did a lot of towns around New York and all those Pennsylvania areas. He was getting ready to come in, so he was in the hotel, and he was standing down there in the lobby saying hi to a lot of we were coming in from a tour that we were doing, and he was there. And I remember walking up, and I was like so excited because I was a fan of his. I was so excited to meet him. I grabbed his hand and shook his hand like this. And he coiled back and went, "Ow!" And I looked, and he had no skin on his entire arm because he had just got back from that death match with Terry Funk in Japan, and his arm was burnt up from the exploding ring. And I didn't even notice. I grabbed this poor guy, and he's got no skin. His arm's all burnt, and he was injured pretty bad, but he just kind of laughed it off. But he told me he was coming in, and I told him I was excited for him to come in. But yeah, that was a pretty funny one.
I love it. All right. Well, what about Shawn Michaels? I'm sure you've got 1,000 Shawn Michaels stories.
The funny thing about it is sometimes I would find myself out going to bars with Shawn Michaels, and if no other Click guys were there, I would kind of watch out for him. And and then sometimes he would get messed up, and he would be belligerent with other patrons at the bar, and people would get mad at him. And there was this one time, I think it was me and him, and I think it might have been Scott Hall, but I was the least messed up of the bunch, and Shawn was talking crap to some group of guys. There was like 6 guys, and he was talking crap, and was not the deal in Syracuse. I wasn't there for that, but this was a different bar situation, and he was talking shit that none of those guys were going to get any females because we were there, and we were going to take all the girls. And he was just being such an asshole, and these guys wanted to beat the shit out of him. And I remember standing there looking around, and I'm like, ugh. And I remember, I think it was Scott Hall. He went out and got in the car and got it started and pulled it around. And to get us out of it, I walked up to the biggest guy in the other group, and I grabbed him by his ears, and I kissed him on the lips, and I let him go. And he had like a tear in his eye. I had almost headbutted him in the face, and I kissed him, and he stood back and he looked at me like this, and all his buddies stood there around him looking like, what are we supposed to do? This big giant dude just kissed you on the lips. And that gave me enough time to grab Shawn by his belt loop and take him, drag his ass out the door, and we got the hell out of there. But yeah, there was instances where people wanted to beat the hell out of Shawn, and I would just grab him and we'd take off.
I'm going to throw one more name at you, and I know this guy had a lot of influence on you, Bret Hart.
Yeah, Bret. I rode with Bret quite a bit, and especially during my last year, he was like giving me advice. He was advising me on certain things and how to do things, and sometimes it seemed like it was good advice, and then sometimes in hindsight, looking back, it maybe wasn't such good advice. I think he was winding me up. Like there was the time he gave me Vince's hotel room number at a pay-per-view and told me to call Vince and tell him I didn't like the finish for my match versus Triple H. Or he gave me Vince's home phone number and told me to call Vince at home and talk to him about gimmicks and finishes. And I called Vince at home, and I'm like, I realized afterwards I was going, man, Vince was real nice to me. He talked to me or whatever. I mean, that shit. But, Bret was winding me up. And it took me a while to realize that, because I was hoping, I had gotten so frustrated in the business. I went to Bret asking for help and advice from the then champion. And, he would always talk to you with such a straight face. He didn't really have any affect to him. Right. And he would talk to you and you'd think he was serious, but he was completely winding me up. So it was interesting to say the least. I mean, I don't have any issues with him or problems. Like I said, again, I was pretty clueless back in those days, and I had made a lot of the moves I made. It's on me, but he had his fun. I would say he definitely had his fun with old Duke the Dumpster's goofy ass while I was there. I think I provided him some entertainment, that's for sure.
Did you want a title run or no?
Well, I wasn't worried about any title run. I just wanted to move from being like opening match up to like mid-card guy up to like higher, getting up into the realm of like maybe being a semi-main event at some point. And the big thing I wanted to do was I wanted to turn heel. And there was a lot of talk, and they were getting ready to turn me heel at a couple of different instances, but they never fully went through with it. But again, as I look back, hindsight being 2020, I should have just started wrestling heel and not giving a shit what they said or did. I could have just started doing it. Now, now that I know what I know, but, if you sit back waiting for them to do something, you're going to be waiting a long time in the wrestling business. So, but yeah, I definitely wanted to turn heel.
So that's how good, is that how good wrestlers sort of go? They don't wait for their call. They sort of just evolve how they want it to happen and then get told if they tell them if to pull up if they need them to, or?
Yeah, you pick and choose your spots. You get over, especially when you got opportunities to be on live television. You do things you want to do, and if you get in trouble, you get in trouble, and you ask for forgiveness afterwards. But you get yourself over. They say get yourself over, and a lot of guys ended up doing that, especially as they moved into the Attitude Era, and more people had a lot more freedom on live television and on live microphones. For example, if I had more opportunities on live microphones to do promos, it would have been a different story. But they controlled a lot of that stuff. They wouldn't, they give mic time and live mic time to the top guys on Monday Night Raw back in those days. So it was just a lot different.
If you ask Brutus
travel the world any?
What was that?
Did you get to travel around the world any?
Oh yeah. Yeah, that was probably one of the most amazing parts. I mean, all over Europe, Germany, a lot, England, Ireland, Israel, a lot of those countries. I've been to Africa, I've been to Austria, I've been over to Singapore, I've been to the Philippines with them. I went to, and I didn't get on a lot of the overseas trips, but I went on my fair share of them. And we were, even though business was down, we were still doing some foreign country tours, in those days, and they were always fun. It was just different, the crowds were different. Business was down in the United States, but when we would go to Germany, boy, they were fired up. And no, I never went to Gibraltar. God, I would have been so over if I was Rocco Gibraltar going to Gibraltar. That would have been great.
When you did go on these overseas trips, you didn't seat up next to Mr. Perfect, did you?
Mr. Perfect was kind of in and out at that time. He wasn't wrestling, so he was just doing commentary a lot, sitting next to Vince. And so he wouldn't go on a lot of tours. He wouldn't be there for a lot of tours. So no, I didn't get to hang with him a lot unless it was like during TV tapings or something.
From what I hear, you pretty lucky for him not to be going on tour with you. He was a practical joker before I got there, and then while I was there, it was Davey Boy. Davey Boy came back, and he was another ribber that was just ruthless. You had to really watch yourself around him and be careful. We've got Brutus. He's the ribber of our bunch.
Oh yeah.
Hey, Duke, you're very articulate. And you were talking before about if you got more mic time. Was that a strength you had as a youngster? I mean, had you done some work in that field in college, or?
That's funny that you asked that question, because I knew I wanted to be a professional wrestler. Obviously, as I stated, I was a child and going up into high school, but one thing I did do before I went and pursued wrestling was I went to college. I went to the University of Miami in Miami, Florida, because my mother worked for the university. So if I got in out of high school based on my grades, I had the school for free. It was called tuition remission. Anyway, while I was in college, I was taking criminal justice and sociology classes because that's what interested me. But I also started taking like public speaking and stuff like that because I knew I was going to have to start cutting promos in professional wrestling. So I took public speaking classes in order to prepare myself.
Good for you, man.
Speaking. Yeah.
I hate
So
public
for all-
speaking. I hated
For
it.
all you young boys and girls out there, it doesn't just happen by accident. You have to build a transferable skill set and bring that into the ring with you. You can tell what I've been writing lately, can't you, gentlemen?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Why don't you tell us?
Oh, that's just educational things on that line. Yeah.
Yeah, we do what we call them drug programs, where we go to the, I work for a drug court program now, and me and the district attorney, who I'm wearing a t-shirt for because she's running for re-election, me and her go to the elementary schools and the middle schools, and we talk to the kids about the dangers of drugs, methamphetamine and fentanyl and all this crazy stuff. And one of the big things I talk about is developing a plan for your future, as early as elementary and middle school, not just waiting to high school or when you're about to graduate, but really figuring out what you want to do and what your path is going to be, and developing a plan to reach that goal. Like I said, I wanted to be a pro wrestler, so I really worked hard at being an athlete in high school. And, I did the little things, like in college, I took some public speaking and stuff like that. So as you said, I could kind of articulate myself well, but I tell the kids, you got to develop a plan and start taking the steps now to work towards that goal. That is a big part of kind of what I talk to the kids about these days.
Well, it sounds like you've got a very important job that makes a difference in the community. What got you into all this kind of work?
I'm going to tell you, like a lot of, and I'm not bashful about talking about this. In professional wrestling, one of the reasons I didn't last very long is because I got wrapped up in taking drugs because of the pain and the injuries. I was taking a lot of painkillers and stuff, and I developed a pretty nasty drug addiction. And later in life, it got me into trouble. So when I got arrested in 2013, and when I did, as part of my plea deal in court, I went through this drug court program. It's like really super strict probation and drug treatment at the same time. It gives people an option. Instead of going to jail or prison, they can come out and get help they need with their drug substance abuse issues. So I went through that program, and I did so well and graduated that program, and they asked me to work there. So now I work for this program here in the same program that I went through. And a part of that obviously is working with other people that are struggling and trying to get through addiction and live life in what we call recovery, as well as educating young people and going to the schools and talking to them about all the crazy things that are out there. And because, it's changed a lot from when I was a kid, man. Now there's kids that are in 4th and 5th grade using hard drugs like heroin and methamphetamine. And there's this stuff called fentanyl that's just killing people. It is such a strong, powerful drug that it's killing people. Lots and lots more overdoses and overdose deaths. So I try to educate people, and that's just kind of part of my job now. And it's a labor of love. It's because of my lived experience. I can share that with other people now.
Have you got any advice for anyone that might listen to this podcast that does need some sort of help?
Ask for help. Don't stay bottled up in your pride. Humble yourself and surrender to the fact that you've lost control over the drug and alcohol use, and you need to ask for help. People will help you, and it will completely change your life. If you take that first step and give up the control, which you don't have anymore, and humble yourself and ask for help, and it'll change your whole life.
Some great advice. So look, anyone who is going through any situation that might be watching this, I would definitely take that advice and speak up. But
sorry, I'll just because Duke he said it so clearly, and for people to realise, you don't have to sort out every problem on your own. And that's the key thing. And lots of people might be going through similar things or different things and affecting people in different ways. So, there's lots of people you can turn to, and you can just talk to someone just immediately just to get some advice on any troubles you might be having.
Yeah.
I
So
appreciate the
important.
hell out of that, because drugs have claimed a lot of wrestlers at a young age unnecessarily.
Yeah, because they want, like he said, painkillers, but they needed to take it if they were in pain. If they weren't wrestling, they weren't making money, right? So you had to take the painkillers to wrestle.
Yeah, back in those days, things were different. They've got like doctors and everything running around behind the scenes now. Back then, we didn't have,
Yeah.
Vince didn't have all that money. He wasn't a billionaire. He wasn't even barely a millionaire, probably. The wrestlers, we would like help each other. Like, I tell you, Savio Vega, for one person, was a great chiropractor, basically, and he never studied chiropractic, but boy, he could fix your back when it was messed up. But yeah, a lot of guys fell victim because they started taking
No choice.
narcotics to help get through the pain. Because if you said you were hurt and you had to go home, you did not make money. And if you were in the middle of some type of a program with somebody, they ended it, and you went home and you lost money, and you may not have ever even come back. So that was the unwritten rule and the unspoken rule. So we would stay in and do everything necessary, including taking drugs, to stay on the road and keep working, to keep trying to make the little bit of money we were making in those days.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And it's also not just isolated to alcohol and drugs. If you've got mental health issues or you're just going through a tough time, you can always talk to somebody. There's people out there that will listen. Just on another topic, you've got a podcast you're doing called Trash Cam Live.
Yep.
People can find this on the Mike Droese Facebook page or the Duke the Dumpster YouTube channel, official YouTube channel. Is there anything you want to tell us about that?
It's just it's kind of like this show, man. We kick back and have a conversation, and we talk about what's going on in the world. And I'll talk a little bit of recovery. A lot of the people I work with here in Tennessee come on and watch it, and it's an interactive show. They talk to us through the comments, and they ask us questions, and then we also talk some wrestling and like I said, current events, and we just have fun and do fun things. And it's Trash Cam Live, every Saturday, 7 p.m. Eastern Time on the Mike Droese Facebook page. It's also on Duke the Dumpster official YouTube channel, and I also stream through StreamYard, just like you guys.
Nice.
Well, I'll be surely tuning into that. I advise everyone to get on there, Trash Cam Live, on the Mike Droese Facebook page or Duke the Dumpster YouTube channel. 7 p.m. US Eastern every Saturday night. Is that right?
Correct.
Awesome.
Just
all
like
right. Well,
Mean Gene.
like
Zach,
what?
you're becoming just like Mean Gene. Really good, with having to do interview after interview, but announcing a different, we'll be coming to the Baltimore Arena. We'll be going to the Jaffa Mosque, that sort of stuff.
Mean Gene was so awesome. Let me tell you something. I met Mean Gene. I met Mean Gene during the Gimmick Battle Royal, Gene Okerlund. At the Gimmick Battle Royal, him and Bobby Heenan, two of the most class individuals I've ever met. And I got to see Gene Okerlund again later on when I kind of came back into the fold and started doing conventions and stuff. And he remembered me, and he was so nice to me. I remember we had done so many different shows and conventions where we would be sitting right next to each other, and I would listen to him. He would make me laugh. And he was such a sweet guy. And again, like I said, Bobby was too. Bobby Heenan was such a great guy. So we lost two greats, man, and those guys. We lost two greats in this business and from the world itself. So, but yeah, you made me think of that when you said Mean Gene.
That's for sure. And before we start to wrap up the show, I did have a list of wrestlers that I wanted to ask you about, but why don't you pick someone from your era that you were in there, that sort of has a memory or a story from what you remember? Might be Hulk Hogan, Undertaker, Davey Boy, Owen Hart, Randy Savage.
Hogan.
Hogan wasn't there when I was there. Hogan had just left for WCW when I came in. Yeah, I came in like about halfway through '94. But golly, man, you know, two of the funniest guys I've ever met in my life are Stone Cold Steve Austin and Savio Vega. I would ride with those guys at different times, and it was just it was never a dull moment. You know, I don't condone drunk driving, obviously, but we would have to sometimes drive 150 miles to the next town, and we'd have a little 12-pack of Natural Ice and listening to Rage Against the Machine or some country music on the radio or on CD, and be driving down the road thinking of the most ridiculous freaking ideas we could think of for wrestling. We would come up with these ideas, and we would just sit there and laugh our asses off. And Savio was the same, man. It was just fun to be on the road with those guys. Owen, always, there's nobody you will ever hear say a bad thing about Owen Hart. He was such a funny guy and fun to be around, and a class good human being. So he's very much missed as well. But those other two guys were crazy, man. I used to have a blast riding with them a lot. So yeah, we had a lot of fun.
Right. I'm just picturing you guys rolling down the street to, you said country music around the 90s. What, Achy Breaky Heart?
No, there was no achy breaky heart going on, but George Jones, stuff like that. Some of the older country.
I think
we listened to a lot of hard hitting stuff, like I said, Rage Against the Machine or those type of bands. I mean, if you think about it, that's where Stone Cold's first Stone Cold theme came from. Bulls on Parade by Rage Against the Machine. He took it from when we were listening to Rage Against the Machine in the rental cars driving up and down the roads together. That's where he got his first theme song from.
Right.
Yeah, I heard Vince was working on a new character, the yodeler, but they couldn't get someone who was a good enough singer to come in and do
the yodeler.
Some Hank Williams.
Man.
Yeah. Hey, I wanted to ask our rattlesnake a question. So Kevin, how does it feel to you when you make customs of guys who might not have had a figure made, and then they actually see them, and does that really give you a bit of a buzz?
That's probably the most satisfying thing when they do like it. And I can only imagine if somebody made one of me. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is a pretty cool thing, man, to have guys like you guys making figures, and I really appreciate it, man. I'm honored when you guys make something like that, especially as good as you guys both made your figures. They were so spot on and so cool. But it is so appreciated, and like I said, I'm honored, man, that you guys chose to make one of me. I really appreciated it.
Did you ever collect those figures as a kid or no?
I did not. They really didn't have them when I was a kid, man.
Really?
That's a funny story.
Old, man.
But you went to WrestleMania 1, you said.
Yeah, they had. I'm sure they had those original small. I don't remember what kind of figures they had in those days. It certainly was a far cry from what they are now. But when I was in the WWF, they weren't making many figures of anybody or anything. They were. I'm telling you, merchandise was at an all-time low of all kinds, and you had to be a very select. I call them the protected species. Those guys, those top 4 to 6 guys on top, the Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart's, Undertakers, and those guys. They had pretty cool merchandise. The rest of us had nothing at all.
Well, there was much less. I think there was quite a big break between the Hasbro and Jack's line.
Yeah, I think that's where. Yeah, there was a big, the new generation era, man. There just wasn't a whole lot going on.
That's for sure.
I'll tell you a funny story. I make guys that most people never heard of or never seen. And I liked the WWF up until about 2000. And I was kind of working my way back. I did a Doink and I did a Mantar, did a couple other customs from that era. And I saw that Warsman had the dumpster heads. So I ordered some of those. And 2 days later, I went to the Crockett Cup for NWA in Nashville. And I went next door to this comic book convention, and he's sitting in the corner. I had no idea.
Oh, yeah.
That was so crazy.
I was sitting next to Hollywood from Glow, the Glow girl. Yes, Hollywood. Yes, that's right. Holy shit.
That was just a crazy coincidence. I was
The
like, holy
Glow
shit, I'm
Girls.
fixing to
Has
make a
anyone-
custom of
anyone
you
made
next
the glows?
week. Huh?
I was just wondering, has anyone made the Glow Girls? Because I was a big fan of Glow back in the old days, because we used to get it on at the pub in between different things. And of course, the Glow series, I mean, is just fantastic in so many different ways.
I wouldn't mind having a Godiva.
Yeah, I was always a
That's
fan
pretty
of
cool.
Dementia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I liked the first season, but I wasn't that fussed on the second.
Who was the big girl? Mount Fiji or something like that?
Mount Fiji. Yeah,
Woo! Big girls need loving too now. Come on.
Mountain Fiji, and didn't what's his name? Sylvester Stallone's mother. She started. She was in there, and then she started her own one, which was it the Powerful Women of Wrestling, or
Oh, really?
at the time?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, Jackie Stallone. That's it, Jackie
Yeah.
Stallone.
Oh,
Yeah.
my God.
Okay, question here. Did restaurants even ban groups of wrestlers for eating too much?
You know, I heard stories about some of those Samoans going to all-you-can-eat restaurants and getting asked to leave, like Yokozuna and Rikishi when he was Fatu, maybe. But I never was with them when it happened. I never experienced it. But boy, they would fuck up some Chinese food. Boy, they would order some ridiculous amounts. I never seen somebody eat so much food as Yokozuna. You know, every
He
once
eats
in a while
like
I'd-
Andre drinks.
Oh, brother. Every once in a while he'd say, "Hey man, maybe go give me some McDonald's," and it would be like half the menu. I would come back. I couldn't even carry it. It was so much stuff all for him. But he
Yeah,
could
but
eat,
you can
boy.
smash a cheeseburger so easily. Come on. He's a
He
big
could
dude.
eat.
I saw an interview. Somebody counted the amount of plates he ate at a buffet. It was like 19 or 20 plates.
Yeah, they used to go mess up some Chinese buffets.
I think Yokozuna's bum strap should have won a Slammy Award, really, for all the work it did.
I wonder who owns his bum straps now.
I don't know.
Do you
They're
still have
probably
any
at the
cool
museum.
wrestling gear, Duke? Have you still got all your stuff, your outfit and stuff?
No, those things would get tore up pretty bad. So I don't have any of the original stuff.
Right. I often wonder that whether the wrestlers have kept any of their gear in ring gear.
The last real Duke the Dumpster gimmick that I know of that's still in existence is owned by a doctor up there in Pennsylvania. His name is Dr. Romascovich. He used to work in the back locker room with us back then. He would, he would help us out as much as he could. He wouldn't give out like painkillers or nothing like that, but any help he could give a wrestler that was having difficulty, he was always there to try and help us for a long time. And he actually appeared on TV some back in those days in the Attitude Era too. He was there quite a bit, Dr. Romascovich, and a lot of wrestlers gave him their gimmicks. So he's got like, a lot of wrestlers' gear throughout his home on the walls. And somewhere on YouTube, it shows he gives a tour and he shows my Duke the Dumpster gimmick. And I mean, it was pretty tore up, but yeah, I gave it to him. That's the last one I've ever seen that was, I don't even know what happened to the rest of them. There's no telling. I had one in Germany that just kind of disappeared because it was so tore up. I wrestled for Otto Vaughn's one season, and I started off wrestling with the Duke outfit, but then I changed into another gimmick, and that Duke the Dumpster outfit just disappeared. I don't even know where it went.
Was the blue one the earlier one or the gray one? How did it evolve?
The blue was the original, the navy blue color. It was just and the funny thing is if you watch when I first started, I wore a blue coveralls, but I wore a tan shirt over the top of it. Now there's a reason for that. When I showed up to do my vignettes with Shane McMahon, I had no idea what my name was going to be or whatever. And the only gimmick I had was the one that said Rocco on it for Rocco Gibraltar. So Shane McMahon grabbed a tan shirt, literally hanging on the wall at the dump when we were standing there getting ready to do vignettes up in this big pile of garbage. He grabbed this off the wall. It was somebody else's, and it fit over the top. And that was the first gray shirt I wore over the top just to cover up the name Rocco because they changed my name to Duke.
Wow.
There you go. Little things we've learned during this podcast, huh?
Other
Juan,
other than Florida, did you ever wrestle in Texas?
Only with the WWF.
So you never set foot in the Sportatorium?
No, I think it was gone before I started, or it certainly wasn't being used anymore when we wrestled down there. No, I never
That
wrestled
place
there.
was god awful, but it was the Taj Mahal of wrestling.
Texas?
The Sportatorium?
I'll tell you where I did wrestle, the Tampa Sportatorium, which is where Championship Wrestling from Florida was televised. It was taped in Tampa. When I was probably 18 or 19, I went with a buddy of mine up there, and we went and wrestled. We were supposed to wrestle as the Undertakers. We wore these hoods with no eyes and no nose and no mouth, but they ended up calling us the Executioners. And it was me and my buddy and this guy, Sam Bass. And we wrestled in a 6-man tag versus Brady Boone, Ron Simmons, and Big Scott Hall. And like I said, I was like 18 or 19. So then years later, I show up at the WWF and Razor Ramon is working there. Big Scott Hall's wrestling as Razor Ramon. And I reminded him of that match. And he went home back in those days. He still had VHS tapes. He went home and found the exact match. And he goes, he couldn't believe I was the same guy because I was a skinny little kid. But he goes, you move the exact same. But yeah, I had met him when I first broke in. It was probably late 80s, in 1980s, when I did that match, a TV match up there. So, but yeah, I wrestled in that Sportatorium, and it was more like a mechanic shop. It was like this small warehouse. They called it a Sportatorium. It was the most ridiculous thing I'd ever heard. It was this tiny little building. But, they made it sound so cool and so important by calling it a Sportatorium.
The one in Dallas, it was an octagon built around the ring, and it went outwards. Probably held 1,000 people. It had dirt floors. They had lead paint and asbestos. No moving air, and that place smelled like armpits, French fries, and old beer.
Nice.
And it was 100 degrees in January inside of there because of all the lights.
Yeah, I wrestled in a lot of those places.
When you were in the WWE, was Macho Man still there or no?
He was still there when I first started. He was doing commentary, he was sitting next to Gorilla Monsoon on Raw, and then Vince took over, and he and Vince were doing it. And then apparently he wanted to wrestle more, and Vince wasn't going to let him wrestle. And so he left. He went to WCW. I remember that day. It was a shock.
Well, he just took off. He goes, see ya?
Yeah, he said, I'll see you. He was out of there.
Good for him. Hey, he went there. He won a title. He got big. He made money.
Yeah, he extended his career and made a lot of money.
You never got an offer from WCW?
No, I actually went and tried out for him, but I didn't get hired. Look, when I left WWF, I was on drugs, and I went home, and it only got worse. And when I tried out for them, I was in pretty good shape physically, but I wasn't in good shape as far as still doing drugs and mentally. So my tryout didn't go all that great. I ended up kind of beating up this guy because he screwed up a spot, and I started kicking the shit out of him and
gave him a receipt.
And he didn't even hit me. He just messed up a spot, and I got mad and I started kicking him. Freaking, it's not good when Arn Anderson walks up to you and calls you a crowbar. I went, oh no, that's not good. So yeah, I didn't get hired on that one.
Oh well. We all have our moments in time. Brutus, any last words to say to Duke the Dumpster Droese?
Just obviously a thank you, but the clarity and the honesty, and to go back to Kevin and Zash and Dwight, who actually make figures, for you and a lot of guys, you're not forgotten. You're actually missed. So it's a celebration of your work. And as fans, we do understand the physical toll that you went through, and have a lot of respect for what you did. And of course, there's the entertainment value that we all love.
It's true.
Absolutely.
Definitely appreciate that, man. Thank you.
Yeah.
I would have liked to see you wrestle in Smoky Mountain. You would have been
That would have been pretty cool. There was talk at one point. There was talk that they were going to send me to work in Memphis for a while and become a heel, but then that kind of fell through. And like I said, they sent me home. But yeah, I would have loved to work in some of those smaller regionals that were still existing in those days.
Absolutely.
Are you going to show them the customs on the page or no?
Yeah,
Zach?
yeah.
Hey?
Don't you not have the customs that you made and Kev?
Yeah, he's seen them.
No, but aren't you going to show? Like you would. Why did you show them? You should have had that popped up there. Or not. You had his.
Have you got yours there, Kevin?
Mine's put up
Hold on, I'll grab him one.
out in the shed.
Out in the shed.
I thought he would have had a little mini video of it.
I can't display my figures because my son's mischievous right now.
Mine had the removable hat, but it fell off his head and I stepped on it, so I've got to do another hat.
You got can you put up a picture of both of them?
And there is the trash can that
With
was
the garbage can. Nice.
3D printed, that one, the trash can,
Wow.
and pieced together. And it's actually got movable handles.
Wow.
So damn cool, right?
Hey, can you put up a picture of both of ours for the watchers?
I don't have a picture on me at the moment, but hold on. Hey, there's one thing I wanted to ask you as well. Sorry, away from the figure thing for 1 second. What I saw this image and I didn't look it up, but what is going on with the Undertaker here?
Yeah, somebody came up with that. It was like some fake kayfabe
It's a
news.
Photoshop.
Yeah, it's called
Was it
kayfabe
Photoshopped?
news.
Yeah.
Said Undertaker was the original Duke the Dumpster or something. I was like, yeah, okay, that's funny. And some people actually got pissed off about that. I was like, wow, man, you guys take life way too seriously. It's a freaking joke, man. But yeah, that was pretty funny.
I didn't know it was Photoshop, so fool on me because I thought actually Undertaker did something there.
No.
Oh, well. Well, guys, thanks for everyone who watched live. Really appreciate you all watching. To anyone who goes back and watches it, thank you also for watching. One more thing. What, Kevin Swales, what is going on here? Tell me a little bit about what you're doing. You look a little sick in the back of that car.
That's the night before my wedding.
Oh boy.
Night before your wedding.
Yeah, good times.
And
Nice.
this is the night of your wedding?
That's my gimmick, Southern Psychopath.
That's your gimmick, boy.
You would have made a great wrestler. All right. Fantastic. Thanks again, Duke the Dumpster Droese, for joining us. Thank you, everyone, for watching. We will
Space is
see
the
you
place,
all.
and the sky's the limit for the Macho Man Randy Savage. And if I can reach up in the air and grab a passing star and hold it in my hand,
There you have it, guys. We finished off with a bit of macho madness.
oh yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everybody. LJN Fight Night Podcast.